Hi, I've arrived in my new parish of Streatham Hill, Christchurch, and I'm speaking to you from the new church that I've taken over, and also I have been invited by the Bishop of Southwark to be a bishop for the arts, which is so exciting as my background has been in the theatre. And there's all sorts of drama that goes on in churches, and particularly in our services, that we're there to give thanks to God and tell stories about the love of God within our lives. And it's also been so lovely to reconnect, now I'm back in London, with Pam Rhodes, of course, who's been such an inspiration. I first met her in Hong Kong during the handover all those years ago, 1997, when she came to visit me and Hong Kong in a high security prison as part of the BBC's Songs of Praise. And we spoke then about the fragility of those in prison and their fears for the future. And she asked me what their favourite hymn was, and it was, of course, What a Friend We Have in Jesus. I always found that the light of Christ shines particularly brightly in the dark places of this world. And in the darkness of this pandemic, we need the hope that Jesus brings. I baptised a number of inmates in my time in Shek prison, and they loved receiving a small wooden cross that I gave them. They'd wear it with such joy, so thankful to be part of the chapel family in the prison. The cross was, of course, a sign of suffering, at the same time a sign of God's forgiveness through the power of that cross. The last few months there's been no possibility of any baptisms or blessings in this church here in Streatham for children or adults, and with the likelihood of a second wave, it looks as though patience is the virtue to cultivate. But I've just been speaking with a parent at the school gates, and she said she longs to come to church and have her twins baptised, who are a year old next Sunday. And so maybe this will be the opportunity in the main service, which we can still have, to baptise her children. And I love those special occasions in ministry when a baby is placed in my arms. That moment never ceases to move me. It's magic. Welcoming them into the world and the wider family. This bundle of joy, such potential, seeming so fragile. But I say that joy of holding a newborn baby, cradling their head, and yet they have a strength of grip that doesn't want to let go. Touching the fragile ones in life, of course, is one of the wonderful marks of Jesus. And of course, it's not just the babies that are fragile, it's the vulnerable of any age. And they all need the appropriate touch of loving kindness. As I said, I've only recently moved to Streatham Hill as the priest in charge, and my first task is to get to know the parish and the community. And then with my Bishop of the Arts hat, I hope to support artists and actors, performance artists especially, whose very livelihoods are in jeopardy, feeling very fragile. But first, to serve the parish. I was told when I arrived that around 20 or so of the more elderly folk and the more vulnerable have been out of touch since the cessation of services. So I found their phone numbers from my church warden and I gave them all a ring. Now they might not have had the internet, but they were quick to pick up the phone. They were delighted to hear from their new priest and bishop. And on my first Sunday, half of them turned up, heavily masked and covered. What a wonderful sign of support. I rang one lady, Frances, only to discover it was her 99th birthday that day, and she immediately invited me to her family birthday party. Her daughter, who was visiting, felt it wasn't wise, so I wished her a very happy birthday down the phone, and I hoped to visit her when things got easier. Well, blow me down if Frances didn't turn up on the following Sunday and been coming to church ever since. Fragile maybe, but with a toughness of spirit. With those who are fragile, it now has, of course, to be a virtual touch or embrace. It takes time and patience and care, gentleness to appreciate the fragile. Fragility is so precious and often exquisitely beautiful. I'm so moved by the skills of the carers in our midst, from our frontline doctors and nurses, midwives, care home workers, their strength and fragility. The self-sacrifice that they're making for the vulnerable is extraordinary. So let's seek out the fragile moments and people and take special care of them and offer a virtual, gentle hug. And when this pandemic is over, watch out, for I'll be offering to hug everyone in reach. Remember, we are even now all embraced by God's love in the tender arms of Jesus. God bless and thank you.